Okay, let's look at question 2, but let's do it in real time so that you can see how I would answer a question in the exam, and you can see how to revise for it by using a dictation tool like Word, or I prefer to use my phone. But here we go. New paragraph. So the first thing I need to do is think, what is this question going to reward me for? Well, it's going to be for writing about language methods and the effect on the reader. So how does the writer use language here to describe the garden? Fair enough, I'm only going to write about the garden, and I'm going to have words and phrases, blah, 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 sentence forms, totally optional. Rosie had made a quick check of the unfamiliar garden before letting the children go out to play. Nothing there. The bottom half of the garden was an overgrown mess, a muddle of trees and shrubs. Okay, so it's a mess. An ancient mulberry tree stood at the centre. Its massive twisted branches drooped to the ground in places, its knuckles in the earth like a gigantic malformed hand. Brilliant. I've spotted my first bit of personification, and I know before I sit any exam that there is going to be personification or metaphor or simile, and the other big two are sibilance and alliteration. So if I've prepared my revision to spot those and write about them, I'm going to be sorted. Let's try part of an answer. New paragraph. The writer begins by making the garden appear untidy and a muddle, full stop. However, comma, we then focus on the ancient mulberry tree at the centre, full stop. This turns out to be a personification which perhaps suggests the tree's significance, full stop. This is emphasised as we find out that the branches are massive and they drooped to the ground, comma, which suggests the tree's great age, full stop. However, comma, the tree becomes sinister when we discover it has knuckles in a malformed hand, full stop. This makes it appear not just deformed but dangerous, comma, because it is also gigantic and therefore threatening, full stop. New paragraph. Okay, now because I'm dictating, I'm not putting my quotation marks in. We can put those in later after all, but you can see how I'm always coming up with reasons why the writer has used that particular personification. Let's get to the next sentence. The wintry sun hung low in the sky, and the gnarled growth threw long twisted shadows across the undergrowth within its cage. Okay, I'm not going to write about the sun because that's not the garden, but I am going to carry on with this description of the tree. But remember, it's not just the tree, it's the garden that I have to describe, so I need to include that in it. The garden appears imprisoned by this giant figure, comma, whose branches enclose the garden within its cage, full stop. This metaphor continues the idea of threat, full stop. The tree's own gnarled growth suggests that this growth happens at the expense of the rest of the garden, comma, and this is also backed up by the garden being described as only undergrowth, full stop. This shows how unimportant the garden is in the life of the tree. Full stop. New paragraph. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next bit. The trunk of the tree was snarled with the tangled ivy that grew up through the broken bricks and chunks of cement, choking it. Oh, I like that. So we've got an element of violence, and it's also as though it's in a battle. Okay, let's go with that then. New paragraph. The garden appears to retaliate as though it is in a battle with this great giant. Full stop. It has sent up ivy, which is now choking the trunk of the tree. Full stop. This personification dramatizes the scene so that nature appears to be more powerful than man. Full stop. This impression is also emphasized by the details of civilization which have been destroyed, comma, such as the broken bricks and chunks of cement, full stop. New paragraph. Okay, let's see what comes next. The path that led down towards the fence at the bottom, which marked the garden off from an orchard beyond, disappeared into a mass of nettles and brambles before it reached the padlocked door. Okay, so I'm going to finish with the idea that mankind has kind of been chucked out of this Garden of Eden. Ooh, nice reference, Mr. Salles. Okay, new paragraph. Perhaps the writer invokes the image of Adam and Eve being expelled from the Garden of Eden. Full stop. Consequently, the paragraph ends with the path on the garden disappearing into a mass of nettles and brambles before it reached the padlocked door. Full stop. This implies humanity has been overcome, comma, and the garden is its own kingdom. Full stop. The locked door suggests no one can now enter. New paragraph. Now, once I've read the full paragraph and I've written my response, I can form a view as to why the writer is doing this. Full stop. So in the actual exam paper, I would not begin my answer on the first line of the page right here. I would begin it down here, which would then allow me, once I'd written and found out what I knew about this, it would allow me to then fill in this space with a summary sentence which summarises the writer's intentions. So here we go, new paragraph. The writer describes the garden in such a way that we understand nature is in battle, comma, the garden itself attacking a giant tree which dominates it, comma, and, comma, like Eden, comma, the garden has expelled all signs of human habitation, full stop. Now, you don't need that sentence, and I realise that it's longer than 3 lines, but if I've got time in the exam, I'm going to go back and put that kind of overview at the beginning because that's something that grade 9 candidates will do. That said, I think my answer originally without this little bit is already a grade 9, but it's a nice little trick that you can have a go at. Okay, let's jump into the mark scheme down here. Shows perceptive and detailed understanding of language. Well, I have a range of quotations, and so that made it detailed. Did I write about the effects? Yes, I was always writing about what this makes us think all the time. Were my quotations judicious? Yeah, we'll go back and look at them, but they certainly were. And did I make accurate use of metaphor and personification? I certainly did. Okay, so this is what the full answer looks like. You can see I've put my introductory sentence at the beginning now, and you can see how my quotations are integrated into my answer. You'll also notice that I have personification, metaphor, and personification. In other words, every time I write about a quotation, I name the technique. I've focused on only 3 of them. And that's plenty for my full mark answer because you can see I'm dealing in detail with each one, and that's what is sophisticated in my answer. You could easily have spotted broken bricks and written about the effects of alliteration, but I thought that was less than the importance of the impact of the personification. Similarly, you could have talked about the malformed hand being a simile, but because that simile was being used as a personification, I left it at that. So this question isn't about spotting loads of techniques. You've only got about 8 minutes to write, haven't you? 12 if you follow my system of not reading all the extracts first. And the other thing I want you to take notice of is I didn't spend any time annotating my texts. Annotation gets you no marks and it wastes time. I started writing as soon as I found something to write about. Please do the same. Those marks are so easy to get when you do, because you know what's coming up. It will be simile, alliteration, metaphor, personification. It's going to be there, 100% guaranteed, or your money back. Oh, crap. This video was free. Well, never mind. Buy me a guide if you think this was any good. See you soon on my channel, subscribe, and all the rest of it. Ring the bell, ding-a-ling-a-ling. Good luck tomorrow.